nice to be here. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and thank you, Birdies, for hosting. And I think we all are bold on the inside and on the outside. Our panel is an incredible panel. The company Birdies was founded by Bianca Gates, or co-founded by Bianca Gates, and she's the CEO. She's literally running the company, like she's the boss. And only 2% of companies get funded by venture capitalists have women founders. And so she has gone through every obstacle on earth. And so Bianca, I would love for you to tell these wonderful people about yourself and how you got to be here.
Tonight is a very special night. I get to meet so many amazing young women who remind me so much of myself when I was younger. I grew up in Southern California, predominantly white neighborhood. My parents were immigrants here from South America. My mom grew up in a small village in Bolivia and my dad in Argentina. And so after they got married, they decided to move to the United States. And my mom didn't speak any English. And so I was born a few years later, and I just never really felt like I belonged in my community where I grew up. I also did not feel like I belonged when I would go down to South America to visit my grandmother and my aunts and uncles, because I wasn't from there either. So I've had this journey of not belonging. Fast forward, as a teenager, and I see a lot of young, beautiful faces out here, I suffered from severe acne. And so that feeling of not belonging, plus feeling very unattractive and not having the means to help with my acne, made me just feel very isolated and alone. And I thought, I don't want anybody ever to feel the way I feel as a young girl. I ended up going down to Argentina for the summer. Fast forward many years, I started a shoe company, which just seems silly. Like, how does that help people? But the idea behind Birdies was not that it was a shoe. It was meant to be a stylish slipper to wear at home. Home is where a lot of love is. It's where creativity starts from. It's where you also look in the mirror and you think, who am I? What do I want to be? Who do I want to connect with? And often I found myself walking around barefoot or in pajama slippers when I was entertaining friends and family. So I wanted to solve this problem of how to create community at home, but looking really good and feeling confident while I'm taking care of my friends and family. So the idea started 5 years ago, and actually it was my husband who said, you should make this into a company after 10 years of looking for this. And we launched as a stylish slipper for the entertaining space of the home. And what ended up happening was something so much greater. Meghan Markle ended up getting a pair of these shoes early on and has been wearing us ever since. And fortunately for us, she really helped put us on the map even since becoming a Duchess. So yes, the shoes you're getting tonight, Meghan Markle is a big fan of. She wears us a lot. And so I'm here tonight to say thank you all. I just look at you and I see myself, and I think, there's so much opportunity and optimism, and you ladies being young and vibrant and beautiful, just believe in yourself, surround yourself with amazing women that support you, and each and every single one of you deserve to do something big, but it's inside of you to do it. And so we've launched this campaign called Bright, Bold Birdies, because we believe that everybody on the inside is bright and bold, but we just need to get it out and support each other to release that energy.
You have an amazing story. Our next panelist is Natalia Silva.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So as she said, I'm Natalia Silva. I'm the executive assistant of Birdies. So basically I manage Bianca's and Marissa's crazy busy agenda and also do a lot of office management here and like a little bit of HR, a little bit of everything for Birdies. I grew up in Sweden, but I am Chilean. I moved to United States 8 years ago and became an American 3 years ago. So that's my journey.
Just so that you all know, so we had never had an executive assistant. That just seems like silly. I should manage my own calendar. But eventually, we thought we needed a little bit of help. So we were interviewing several candidates who had very impressive backgrounds in having had this exact same position. And then we came across Natalia, who hadn't specifically done the job, but she was so delightful, so happy, a go-getter. And her impact was more after the interview that really resonated with us. She would handwrite cards to us. She would give little gift baskets, and she would use personalized touches in her follow-up with us that really set her apart. So as you think about what you want to do next and the job you want to have, don't forget those personalized messages and those great follow-up thank you notes, because they go a really long way. And it was honestly amongst a lot of other things, but what really set you apart from the pack. And we've been so happy that you've been with us ever since.
So our next guest is LaToya McGinnis. And LaToya, why don't you tell everybody what you do and what what your background is.
Hi, everyone. My name is LaToya McGinnis, and I work as a brand ambassador at Birdies. I've been with Birdies for 2 years, since 2018, and I work in the showroom. So if you guys ever come down, bring your family, you'll see me usually in the store. My background is in fashion and also education. I worked in various fashion companies over the years. And what brought me to Birdies was meeting Bianca in a store that I used to work in San Francisco.
So I'm a digital marketing analyst. Day to day, I help with digital marketing. So it's anything from emails to our website. I used to help on paid acquisition, which is all those Facebook ads that you guys are seeing. I help with that and make that come alive. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah, they're on
TikTok?
Instagram.
Yeah, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, I think we were on. So I'm kind of in everything that we do. And the best thing about working at a startup is you get to wear many hats.
I just want to add one more thing too with Katie. Her smile lights up a room. I mean, and I think it's true of everybody up here and probably everybody at the company. Smiles go a very long way. I mean, you go from this to this, and just people just want to be around you, and they want to hire you, they want to work with you, they want to celebrate with you. And so Katie is just a reminder every day of just wearing a smile is the best accessory that you can wear.
It's hard to know what you want to be when you grow up and what you end up. So now we know what everyone is doing today, but what did you really want to be when you grew up, when you were a little kid?
I wanted to be a businesswoman, and I wanted to make a lot of money. Yeah. We did not grow up with a lot of money, and so money has been my motivator since I was a little girl. I saw my mom be very dependent on my dad. She didn't work outside of the home, and I'll never forget, there's this table in my parents' kitchen. It was rectangular. And we would all sit around there for breakfast. And my dad would always sit at the head of the table. And the sun would be behind him, and it would blind us every morning. And I just thought, well, why does he get to sit, there where the sun doesn't bother him? And so one day I asked him, I said, Dad, why do you get to sit at the head of the table while the rest of us have to endure the sun in our eyes? And he said, the person that makes the money gets to choose where they sit. And I remember that I was 8 years old, and I was like, well, damn, I'm going to make a lot of money and choose where I sit. And actually, if you come to our home, you'll see every table in our house is round because everybody gets to sit at the head of the table. But for me, money was a motivator from the very beginning, to be perfectly honest. And I think one thing that women don't talk enough about is that it's okay to be motivated by money. It's okay to make money, and it's okay to be independent. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not okay to make your own money, because it is. Money is power.
I believe that every one of us has a superpower. My superpower is I choose to be happy regardless of circumstances, or even if I'm unhappy for a little bit, I just remember, hey, I'm going to choose to be happy. And so I think that's a superpower that has gotten me through the hard times in life. But I'm wondering, do you guys have any superpowers? Do you fly or invisible or anything?
Yeah, no, I always think of my superpower as my optimism. Even though I faced obstacles growing up, you always look at the bright side of things. You always look at the positive. And if your mindset is that, nothing can really get in the way of the obstacles, your journey. And also just resilience is my superpower. Because even when you face things that are difficult, you always wake up the next day and you have an opportunity to do it all over again. So keep having resilience, keep being optimistic, no matter what you're faced with, no matter what you're dealing with. Just know that every day is a new day to start over.
I can speak from a personal. I got divorced 4 years ago, and I think that was my kind of milestone. I'm I don't care about anything after that. It was just so draining and emotional that after that I was you know what? I'm not going to worry about what people think of me or what I do, or I'm just going to go for what I want. And so that had a huge impact in my life. But yeah, I guess I made a bad decision choosing my man. But I'm
still young.
Yeah.
You're still young.
Well, the good news is when bad things happen to you. I had cancer 11 years ago, and my daughter was born at the same time. She was adopted, and life couldn't have gotten much worse. As you can imagine, just all these things happening. And once you kind of get through hard stuff, everything else is easy. right? It's kind of amazing where you have a higher bar for what bothers you. And, you know, so when you look at hard things that happen to you, not getting what you want or whatever it is, try to turn it around and look at it as a blessing. Like, what can I learn from this? And like, how is this going to help me for the next time? Because you'll have so much more experience and resilience and, you know, don't let it knock you down or become a victim, but just kind of say, okay, well, next time it's going to be, you know, better and not worrying, I think. And so, did you ever have any fears growing up and did you have to overcome them?
I think for me, a lot of like being good enough, like that fear of not being pretty enough, or I was always super thin. I wasn't like developed like some of the other girls. So none of the boys really liked me. I had like a gap in my teeth. So there was always like these little quirks about me that was really unique. And I was always kind of like worried about what people were saying, like, oh, this person doesn't like me. I was sort of a little bit of a loner, not completely. I had friends, but I didn't hang with a group of girls. So it was just all of that fear of being good enough. But I always kind of had like, just in my mind, I had this, it was really God, I think. You know, I always carried like this wisdom and this grace from my God, you know, that kind of just kept pushing me forward. And it was like this little tiny voice in my head that I would always listen to, you know, that even when I didn't think I was good enough, it was like, you are good enough, like, you know. So listen to your inner self, you know, even if you ever get to the point where you feel like, you know, you're not good enough, listen to that voice in your head and, you know, just push forward with whatever you're doing and be good to yourself and be gentle with yourself because, you know, that those feelings don't last forever. You know, things will always get better.
It's true. Sometimes, especially for women and girls, we kind of do it to ourselves. You look in the mirror and you go, right? You're like, oh, you know. And if you just say, wait a second, I'm going to just tell myself I'm beautiful today, or I'm smart, or I can do it. And all of a sudden, you can.
Yeah, so very similar to LaToya. When I was younger, I had dyslexia, so I couldn't read like the rest of my classmates. So I never felt smart enough. And I was always taken to another room. And you just feel dumb when you're not with the rest of the crowd. You're like, why do they get to be in the classroom when I don't? I have to do something different. So for the majority of my childhood, I was like, I'm just stupid. I'm slow. And then one of the teachers like, you're as smart as the rest of the crowd. Like, you just need to learn differently. And once I heard the word differently, I was like, okay, so it's not dumb, it's just different. And now it really is one of my superpowers because now I get to embrace how I'm different from other people. I think that's what's unique to me and unique to LaToya, makes everyone special and work harder. And another thing that I had to do is I had to work harder to learn how to read. So just in second grade, I had to work harder than the next person. So
and your twin brother, right?
And my twin brother,
reading like crazy.
So, I mean, he like could have gotten into Stanford. My twin brother, like he's just a genius. So I'm comparing myself to him, and he's athletic, and I was slow, and it just like was not the best situation for me to have this like perfect person to like compare yourself to. And then once I realized like he's just different, I'm just different. I have these strengths that he might not have, and we can kind of work together and do these things. And just it's just something that I take with me now, and I work extra hard. I stay extra late, or I come in early, or I work off hours. And I think that's something that thing that I had to overcome, that terrible time in my grade school when I just felt stupid, has really helped me be successful today. So it's something that I didn't like living, but I guess it got me here, so I'm blessed with it.
So Natalia, you were born in Sweden, then lived in Chile, then went back to Sweden,
and
right?
Went back to Chile.
And then went back to Chile, and then LaToya, you were born in Mississippi, and then you moved to San Francisco, not at the best times of your lives to be moving. How did you guys figure out how to fit in when you didn't really fit in?
Well, I didn't fit in. I had I had a really strong Southern drawl.
I did
people
too.
didn't understand what I was saying.
People thought I was really stupid. Yeah.
Everyone was like, why do you talk like that? Why do you dress like that? Why do you look like that? It was really tough. I was in 7th grade when I moved to San Francisco from a really small town with probably about 1,000 people. I felt lost. I felt sort of like, I don't know if I'm going to survive in this place. So it was really tough finding friends.
So how did you do it?
Or
did you?
I did. I mean, I just stayed optimistic. I just sort of, I was myself. I just tried to be myself.
Did you make friends?
I did. Eventually, I made friends. I didn't really like them. I didn't really like them.
Mean.
They were mean.
Bad
but
manners.
I was quiet, so I would just kind of be the quiet girl, the shy girl. But I did make friends, but it was tough. It was really hard. It was like a big transition, and it was really being 13 and 14 is a really tough time in your life. So I'm thankful that I did survive it.
Yes, so I never fitted in either. Even though I was born in Sweden, we also lived in like the suburbs of Stockholm. So it was very, very white. So I was different from the get-go. And then moving me to Chile, I was like, oh my God, everyone's gonna look like me. I'm gonna finally fit in. But then you're culturally different. And so you don't fit in there either. And I would be like, they would be mean to me anyways and make fun of how I talked because my Spanish was so bad. So I never really fitted in. But I think the superpower is to be different. I don't know what switched in my brain, but it was like, well, they're talking about you. So, I mean, they're like, obviously they are thinking about you. So like you are someone to that person. So it doesn't matter really. But I also felt, sports actually took me through a lot. So like gymnastics and cheerleading, all that, because you do get a lot of like teamwork from sports. So I made friends through sports, so.
I'd love to hear what you think about the importance of networking and what do you do if you don't have a network? How do you start a network? And we don't all have to answer the question, but just if you want to just jump in.
I actually got this job because of my network. My professor in Santa Clara had a daughter and he introduced me here and she was my manager here. So I had to interview here. But I think the scariest thing about network is you have to initiate it. You need to make that first relationship. And it's way scarier than it is. Because that person that you're going to engage with wants to have that relationship too, because you have something to offer them as well. And that's something that I always had a hard time dealing with it because I always was like, am I smart enough for someone to mentor me? I don't want them to take a chance and I don't succeed for them. But that's just not the case because like, as LaToya and I say, like your difference in Natalia, like your difference will make you special to them.
So is that like a network or is that a mentor? Like
I think it's both? Because
okay.
From the mentorship and networking, through the mentorship, you kind of gain that network that you get to be introduced to people that they're familiar with. Mm-hmm. It's just starting that little thread that leads into a larger web of relationships. Because I think networks, it lacks the word network lacks the warmth that I think it actually can be in the relationships that you can foster in a network.
Yeah, and I think we all have networks. Everyone in this room has someone that they either came with or someone that they talk to all the time or someone that they look up to. Those are your networks. Those are people that can actually say something great about you or say something that that you do that you may not think that you're good at. They may say like, oh, she's amazing. She has great follow through, or she's good, with customers, or or she's very friendly. So those are your network. Like Katie said, the word doesn't really have a lot of, it's sort of like network. Like, is that like some technical term? But it's really, we all have a network. And now we're your network. So, use everyone in your community as your network because those people are going to help you further along through your journey and as you're growing up.
So Birdies talks a lot about being bold on the inside and on the outside. I want to hear from the Birdies people. What does it mean to be bold? Like in kind of in a way that would be relatable to the people here.
I would say just go for it, take the risk. And I obviously moved around. Obviously my parents moved me around, but after that I was on my own and I decided to move back to Chile by myself when I wasn't having a good time in Sweden. I kind of like made it so perfect in my head that I want to move back to Sweden. But then when I moved back as an adult, I was like 18, 19. I'm like, wait, this is not where I belong either. So I was like, no. So I have to move back to Chile. And then I was like, I'm going to go for an international career, and then found San Diego State. So just like dream big and go for it. Just, I mean, travel if you can. Just go for it. I think that's a bold movement, sir.
I think also being bold is not, don't worry about the mistakes that you make along the way. There's always opportunity, and there's always time for you to bounce back, you know. Don't let an obstacle like get you down, and don't feel like, oh, it's the end of, like, you know, I made this mistake, it's over for me. It's not true. There's always opportunities to do something else. There's always opportunities to reinvent yourself. Even if you make a career change in the middle of, like, you thinking, you know, maybe you were thinking you wanted to be a teacher, and all of a sudden you want to go to medical school, you know, take those risks, and don't be afraid, you know, don't be afraid to make a change. I know you guys are in high school, so it's like, go to college, do one thing. You can do as many things as you want to do, and the world is out there for you to try it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And being bold for me is just like being who I am, because that is something that was hard for me at the beginning. And being bold and just being who I am is something that I think has given value to my life, because I'm comfortable. And it's also helpful for the people around me, because they get someone new and authentic. And I think that's something that that we can all do. And I think it's a powerful, bold thing to do.
I agree with everything these ladies said. And I would just say, like, as you think about being bold, you're going to have to make mistakes. There is no being bold without making mistakes. If you're pushing yourself, if you're really stretching yourself, it's inevitable that you're going to make mistakes. Do not beat yourself up over it. Say, I'm not going to do this again. I learned, and I'm never going to do that. And part of our culture here at Birdies is about making mistakes. Nobody's ever created a Birdies. Nobody has ever created a slipper and a shoe and meshed it together. And so we have to define what the future is, and nobody has defined it for us. And so along the way, we have to take some calculated risks. We're not going to be perfect every time. But when we make those mistakes, we now know more than our competitors. We now know we're never going to do that again, and this is why. And so it starts to create this path for us of success. So mistakes are very good. Don't forget that. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Just don't do them again.